Hey everyone, welcome back to the 100 Days of Vue.js Challenge. I'm really excited to dig into Vuetify today. We're going to convert the features that we've already created and make them from the kind of mess they are right now into something that's way more beautiful. But before we do that, let's cover some business. First, I've started putting timestamps in the description below the video so you can jump between sections. If you don't want to hear me do the rest of the introduction, you can go down there right now, see the specific subject you want, and click on one of those. Second, I want to talk about the title and the release schedule. The title says days 3 and 4, but this is actually all day 4. Yesterday, which was day 3, was entirely consumed by client work. However, I put day 3 in the title as well, so that people wouldn't be confused and look for a day 3 video that doesn't exist. The first question you may be asking is, why are we going to be using Vuetify? And, well, take a look at this page, and yeah, you'll see that we need something. My personal design skills are not going to cut it, even for something as small as what we have right now, and it's just going to get worse. So we need some sort of design framework to do a lot of the thinking for me. And one of the most popular design frameworks out there right now is Material Design. So it's created by Google, and if you use any of their products, you're going to be familiar with how it looks. And they've got thoughts on just about everything on how you create your app. And that's good. That means that it's going to be looking just like every other Google app, so it'll look professional. And so this is really, really good for people like me who don't understand design very well. But it's also good for people who do understand design because they'll be able to customize it and build on top of it and make something that is even greater than what I could create. And there are some instances where you may not want to use a design framework if you're super duper skilled at design and you want to create something that is unique, that doesn't fit in with the rest of the web. I'll leave that up to you. But for us today, we're going to be doing Material Design. And Vuetify is an implementation of the Material Design spec in Vue.js. So if we go to get started, we'll see that there are lots of UI components that they already have created for us. So most of what you could imagine as being, standard components, they've got it. They've even got several of some types of components. So tables, for example, they have 3 different types. And then if you click on one of these, you'll see that it has some pretty extensive documentation. I think this is one of the more complex types. So let's go to a subheader and see that, yeah, this one's a little bit easier to understand. Just 3 different props that you can give it. And then you can go to this playground where we see it used and view the source for it. And it's pretty simple. It's just a component. Notice all of them start with v-. So that's a symbol that it's a Vuetify component. And here in this example, they're using Vuetify components all the way down. So yeah, I think Vuetify will fit our needs, and I'm pretty happy that we're doing it near the beginning of this project because it looks like it'll take over your whole app if you want it. At least all the parts that are UI components. So now let's figure out how to install it. So they have our getting started guide and the quick start. And first of all, notice that if you need to support IE 9 or 10, sorry, you can't do this. But it'll support just about everything else. All right, now on to installation. You'll notice that there are a lot of options down here. Let's go ahead and use the Vue UI install. So first we will open up the Vue UI. All right, and we have to import our project. Yes, import this folder. All right, so we've got our Vue Screencast app, and let's go to plugins, and we'll add a plugin. So let's search for Vuetify. Vue CLI plugin Vuetify. That looks like what we want. Let's install that. All right, and we can go ahead and use the default and finish installation. All right, we'll see what's changed. So they've installed Vuetify 2.0, and they've also installed Vue CLI plugin Vuetify and Vuetify Loader. Then in the app, it has replaced our links with their own special ones, and then it's re-imported Hello World. So we'll probably want to change that. Yeah, they've replaced basically our entire app.vue file. So we'll come to a happy compromise on that. Then they've added a new logo, which is fine. They've added a new hello world.vue, which now shows us how to use some of these Vuetify components. So that's nice. And then in main.js, they've imported the Vuetify plugin and put it in our Vue instance. And in plugins/Vuetify, they have connected Vuetify with Vue. And then in yarn.lock, they have this minimized because it's probably pretty big. But it's actually just one thing. That is a little bit suspicious since we did have 3 things added in our package.json. Interesting. Well, let's try to serve our app and see what happens. Uh-oh, cannot find module. You know, I bet the installation messed up. So let's just do yarn install. And then run yarn serve. And now it looks like it's working. So yeah, our previous install. So now let's look at our new yarn lock, and there are a lot more things added. And now our app works. But you'll notice our front page is very different than what it was before. In fact, our video page is very different than it was before. Let's go ahead and fix that before making any commits to Git. We'll go into our app.vue, and you'll see that it's replaced a lot of stuff with their own thing. And actually this vapp and vapp bar, not bad. We'll change some of the content in there, but it's pretty good. It's here that's the issue. So we need to replace this with a router view. And what a router view does is basically it lets the route take hold. And so, yes, you can delete that. And so this is in app.vue, this is the base, and anything below this will be displayed in router view. All right, so it is showing the correct template, but it's not showing any of your data. And that is because it deleted where we had the mounted hook, and it dispatched the load videos action. And when we have that, now everything is showing. All right, so our buttons here are even more messed up than before, but we're going to be fixing those in the next section. For now, to wrap up this section, let's go ahead and fix our navbar. So instead of saying Vuetify material design here, let's just say view screencasts. And we can take out the latest release. We can say login, which is something that we'll be adding much later. Then this V button, it will take out the href because we won't be needing a link there yet. All right, so we have the functionality of our app back. We've taken a slight step backwards with styling, but that's because this has basically overridden our button styling and this header styling. And we'll be fixing that very soon in the next section. But for now, I'm happy that we've got this installed. All right, I am really excited for this next section. So here we're going to be fixing the video list, and we're going to be making it look a lot better. A quick note on learning. So there are a lot of components in Vuetify, and so you won't be able to learn all of them just by watching the video. I know I've just spent most of the morning messing around with them, trying to find the right ones, and to learn it, you're going to have to do a certain amount of the same. But hopefully I'll be able to share what I've learned, and that can speed up your learning. All right, so here's a quick preview of what we're going to be turning this list into. So we've turned it into a group of cards. They've got this nice little hover function. If you click on them, they have a ripple effect, and that applies to the buttons as well. And so overall, it's just a little bit nicer. It's not a professional design, but it is probably way better than I would have done just on my own in one morning. So let's take a look at how that was accomplished. Let's go ahead and start with something small. Let's tackle these buttons and turn them into Vuetify buttons. So we'll go to our Vuetify documentation and find the buttons. And let's get the simple form, and it's just V-button. So let's change it here in our video list video view, our component that is, and then we won't need the tag button class anymore. And let's see what that shows. So no change yet. Interesting. And it says an unknown custom element. But I reload the page and then it works. So that's kind of surprising behavior, but something to be aware of. I think maybe it was because I switched branches. I'm not sure. But if your stuff doesn't work, just try reloading the page. So this is good so far. It's got that ripple effect automatically, and when I hover over them, they darken a little bit. So that's nice. Let's go ahead and turn it to that nice green color. So if you look at the button component, then it has some primary, error, and disabled special functions. So color equals primary, color equals error, but we don't want any of those. We want something green. And fortunately, you can put any sort of color into the color option. This is all the options, by the way. There are a lot. Fortunately, you can search for them. So we could, if we wanted something quick, we could just say dark, and it turns it to that. And we could also say color equals primary, like we saw before, and then dark doesn't affect it, color equals error. All right, but what we actually want is something that's green. And what do you know? It is well named. However, we don't really like that color of green. I want something lighter. So let's go ahead and go to our styles and go to our colors. And we can see that for all these colors, there are different shades we can do. So for all of them, you can have darken or lighten. So let's try lighten 2. And since we're adding more to there, I'm going to give get tag its own line. And then, that's nice. Next, we want to give these things a little bit of spacing. They're a little bit too close to each other for my taste. So go to spacing. And here we can control our padding and our margin with specific classes. So here we could have the margin right 2. And that would put space in between them. So let's try that. Margin right 2. Very nice. But there's still more we can do. Let's go ahead and go back to our button component and look at some of these options. So one really interesting option is well, this one's hard to search for because it's so short, but it's the 2 option. And you'll notice that this prop has been on the view link. So, well, the router link. And I wonder if it does the same thing. So let's go ahead and just take that from there, put it onto vButton. And now let's test it out. Well, that's interesting. So there are several different types of Vuetify components where you can just put a 2 there and it acts as if it's a router link. Looking ahead, you'll see that we have another router link over here, but we don't yet have any Vuetify component to put it on. But this is something we'll be taking care of later. All right, now is there anything more we want to do with these buttons? Well, we can look and we can see that they're a little big, so we may want to shrink them. I wonder if there's anything having to do with size. Oh look, so we could put large or small, extra large or extra small. Let's see what those look like. And since we're messing with the styling so much, I'm going to go ahead and put both of these on screen at the same time. All right, so let's try the small. Save that. And yep, it got smaller. Extra small, it got really small. Extra large. All right, I think regular small is pretty good. Now I think we're done with our buttons for the moment. I would like to get that underline out of there, but that's being caused by this link around it, and that'll take care of itself when we put it into a card. All right, so the cards are a little bit difficult. Let's go ahead and do some more basic stuff, turning this into something that's in Vuetify. All right, so we will go to the home component. That's where that is. And right now it's just an H1, but I bet Vuetify has a way to make it look in line with everything else. So let's go and I'm going to search for header here, but I can't find anything. And if I go to the API Explorer and search header, it has some subheaders and some headers to other components, but not really what I'm looking for. Let's look at styles, and we'll go ahead and look at content. No. Typography? There we go. So in typography, we have font sizes. And let's try display 3. And that is a class. You can tell by the dot they have. So that's a little bit better. We'll try display 4, and we'll go ahead and add some margin, add it all around. Good. And we'll also want to center it. So try justify center. And actually we have to have it as a flexbox thing to do that. There we go. So that's looking nice. Okay, so we have our header and we have the buttons. Now we have the more difficult one, which is turning these into cards. The good news is that Vuetify does have a really nice card component. So the basics are you have vCard, and you can specify a width. And let's go ahead and start with that. So we'll go to our video list video, and here we're gonna, on the outside, we're gonna specify a vCard, and we're gonna make the width equals to 340 pixels. And we're gonna wrap that around everything else. And we'll see how it looks just with that. Okay, so not a whole lot of change. We'll put the hover there, see that it's working. What's going on? All right, unknown custom element, vCard. So I think there's something with the loader. Yeah, so there's something with the loader where if you type it in without refreshing, it won't hot reload. So yeah. When you use a new element, a new component from Vuetify, just make sure to manually reload. All right, so we've got the vCard, and you can hover like that. You've got the width. We do want them not all lined up like this. This sort of defeats the purpose of having them in cards if they can't be in a row. So how can we get that? Well, Video List Video just has the card, so we'll need to take care of it here. Now we have this div with the class of video container that is not doing anything. So let's go ahead and take out that blank CSS and then replace this class with something that'll do us some good. So let's see what they have available for Flexbox. All right, so you can use dflex to set up a Flexbox. So let's start with that. And that's good, so they're lining up, but you know, if there's more than 2 or 4 if you have a larger screen, then you're not going to be able to see them. So is there a way to wrap? Yes, there is. So we want something like this, and it's the class FlexWrap. All right, this is looking better. At least our layout is looking better. The actual cards themselves, not looking great. Let's start fixing those now. So the first thing we'll do, let's take this router link and let's put it, that 2, on the vCard. And we'll get rid of that router link, and that'll automatically make this look a little better because it's not all underlined, but it still works. Now let's make everything else look better. We'll start by removing the old video box that we had. This is no longer serving us. All right, and we've got some errors here. Well, not errors, it's not styling right. So the image one is the big one, and we can fix it by putting it in a V image. All right, so now it's nicely contained within the card. But everything is really crowded. The text is pushed up against the edges of the cards are pushed up against each other. So we'll fix that second one first. The cards are pushed up against each other. So here, let's go ahead and add a class that is, we'll add margin of 2 all around. And if we expand that a little, good. So now they're not pushed up against each other. So now we need to take care of stuff inside. We could probably do padding all 2. Okay, that's decent, but I kind of like having the image pushed up against the side, taking it all up, but not the text. So we're going to have to tackle the text individually. Let's go ahead and look at the documentation for the cards. So here we have the V card, but there are also 3 other ones. And so the V card title, we can use that for our title. And let's see how that changes it. So that's looking nice. It's got the spacing and it's a little more stately. And we can go ahead and take out this div that's not doing anything for us. And then we can go and we'll use vcard actions for our tags, because they're kind of actions. We can take out the description and then vcard tag actions. And all right, so this is looking pretty decent, actually. I like the font here, I like the spacing, and when we expand this, it gracefully expands to hold more cards per row. All right, so let's see if there's any debugging we need to do. So we click here, so that's one thing. If we click here, it will do the ripple on the entire card instead of just on the button. And so you might assume that the action we're taking is the same as if you click anywhere else, whereas that is not the case. This will actually take you to the tag page, which we will fix in a minute. How we fix this is we go to our V button and we need to put mouse down dot stop. And so that will stop the mouse down button from escaping that button. So I think this home page is pretty good. Now let's go ahead and make sure that our tagged page is looking good. So, I mean, it's not really right now. It's decent, but we want these to line up in a row like they do on the home page. Fortunately, we already have the code for that. We just need to modify it for this page. Here we are in the tag video list view, and we will take our classes from the home and stick them in here. And when we do that, we will see that this is already looking better. Let's actually go ahead and make it display 3. We don't want this one quite as intense. All right, and now here we need to put them in a flexbox. So we'll copy that, wrap it around, and this is mostly there. Now we need to add in that class of MA2, or we could go ahead and stick it here. All right, excellent. And just to check, we will go back to our home page and make sure everything is still working there, and it is. So we've got this all working. This is awesome. Let's go ahead and review what we've learned so far. So we started with the V button component, and then we put on a modifier to make it smaller. And then we had the color modifier to change the color, and we could lighten or darken it. And then, wait, this isn't a color. What's MR2? You remember that this stands for margin right 2. How's that working in the color? Well, let's go ahead and change this to class to see what happens. And it appears what you put in color just gets appended to the class. So let's go ahead and fix this because we want to be nice to future programmers. But it actually doesn't matter what you put in color and what you put in class from the perspective of the computer. So that's interesting. Then we have mousedown.stop, which stops the mouse down action from propagating up to the card. And so that stops it from rippling. Finally, we have the toProp, which works just like it does on a router link. And that means that instead of wrapping the button in a router link, we can just put it on the button itself. This is something that's common to a lot of Vuetify components. You can see we did that with the vCard as well. And as a side effect, it changes the styling. So notice not everything's underlined, even though everything is still clickable. Then we have the vCard. So we set the width to 340 pixels right here in the component. We didn't have to do it in style. So that's nice. And we set this really nice hover property with the shadow that comes out. And of course you can set classes. And then we have the vCard title and vCard actions, which we can put inside of it, which have really nice spacing. And there's also a vCard text, which we didn't use. But that's just scratching the surface of what's available in the card component. So let's go ahead and we gotta scroll through all these. There's a lot. We'll just go to the examples. So here's something that you might see on, say, Airbnb. And then you can combine them like this in different sizes, different layouts of the cards. Can make this expandable and contractible. Make a Twitter card. Make you might recognize this from Google Maps. And yeah, there are a lot of possibilities. All right, so moving on from the card, we learned a little bit about Flexbox. So basically this makes it into a Flexbox div and then it applies FlexWrap. And that's how these things are all wrapping nicely. We don't have to do any like column equals 3 like you might have to do in other frameworks. And then for our title, we can make this display 4. That's the largest one available. And by the way, this can just be a div. It doesn't have to be an H1. And we made it Flexbox so that we would justify it in the center. And then we put some margin around it so it's not all pressed up against everything. Cool, so as you can tell, we're just scratching the surface of some stuff, but we've already created something that's really nice. And now we need to take care of our other screen. This. Let's go ahead and fix this up in the next section. All right, in this next section, we're going to be doing the video watch page. And I originally put this second because I thought it was going to be more difficult. But actually, once I got the video sizing correctly, it was a lot easier. Also, part of it may be that I now have an entire half day's worth of experience with Vuetify. That tends to make things a lot easier. But the problem itself is a little bit easier as well. So think of this as a victory lap, where we'll also learn some new stuff. This is what our screen is going to look like when we're done. So here we have our video over here. It's sized very nicely. and our title, our description, and then our buttons. And then when we shrink this, you'll notice the video is shrinking. And then once we get to a certain point, the video is on top instead of being to the left side. And this information is on the bottom instead of being to the right. And we also went ahead and changed a little bit of stuff up here, so it's green and that button is clickable. All right, now we're back to our old code. And you'll notice this is, well, not great at all. So a big video up here. You can luckily see all this without scrolling down, but that's not a guarantee. And then if you go to a smaller screen, then stuff starts getting bad. So you can't even see the entire video. So we're going to need to fix this. We're going to need to make it look better on the full screen, and then adapt to the smaller screen as well. The first thing we'll do is go to our player options, and I found an option for it is fluid equals true. So that means that it will expand or shrink based on the size that we give it. So there we go. It's being fluid now. So that's a good start. You'll notice there's these black bars on top. That's because we have set the height down here. We can go ahead and take that off, and now it becomes even more fluid. As a matter of fact, let's remove our old styling completely. And you'll see that this actually does not change much at this point. So our video is starting to cooperate. Let's go ahead and take care of some other stuff that we know how to take care of. These buttons. So we'll go ahead and make them a V button instead of a button inside a router link. All right, and we'll go ahead and remove the tag button class, and we'll put our 2 in there. And we'll have to make sure to remove the router link, because when we had it in there, there was an error and the buttons disappeared. All right, and now we can start adding on other classes. So we'll start with the color, green, and make it lighten 2, just like we had in the other one. And we'll add in a class of margin right 2. And we'll go ahead and add a margin top of 2 as well. All right, that's nice. You know what? Let's just do a margin all of 2, because we're going to need that on the left as well. Okay, cool. They're set off nicely. And in this case, we don't need the mouse down dot stop or the small like we had in here, because it's a different context. And now I think it's time to start getting this over to the side when it's expanded, because this full screen experience is not good, even though the smaller screen experience is much better than it was before. So let's go ahead and look at the Vuetify grid system. So the grid system may be very familiar to you if you've used Bootstrap before. And there are multiple components. There's the vContainer, vRow, vColumn, and vSpacer. What we're going to do for our app is have the vContainer on the outside, and then inside that we're going to have a vRow, and then we're going to have 2 vColumns, one of which will hold the video player, and the other of which will hold everything else. So let's go ahead and first replace this div with a vContainer. And then we will make a vRow. And then inside that, we'll go ahead and make a vCall and stick the video player inside one of those and stick everything else inside the other. Now, this does not do any good until we assign the number of columns. So there are 12 columns in a row. So let's go ahead and stick the video player with 9 and everything else with 3. And there we go. This is looking much better. So, especially at this larger size, let's fix a couple of things. We will go ahead and put our title and our description above the tags, because that works better in this instance. And then we will switch these so we can see it better. Normally this wouldn't be an issue, but we need this screen large enough that it doesn't, look like that. All right, so let's style some of this as well. So here, instead of an H1, we'll do like we did before, and we'll put in a class of, we'll try display 4 first, but doing it with the dot makes it disappear, of course. And then display 4 is actually way too large. Let's try display 1. So that's pretty good. These words sort of fall all over each other, but it looks better when we have it full screen. So at full screen, this looks good. And it looks all right here. We'll go with that for now. And I'm also starting to regret this MA2. Let's take it back to MR2. No, let's do MA1. All right, that's looking a little better. Let's do MR1 and bottom 1. There we go. By the way, notice that when we were messing with this, we didn't have to go into a CSS file and mess around with stuff and then hope it didn't break anything else. We can use these utility classes and know exactly what we're doing. It's very easy to mess around with and play with stuff to get it right. All right, so we are just about done with this. It's looking good, but it's still not great when it's small, So we need to figure out how to fix that. And for that, we'll go to our vcol documentation, and we'll search for size. Nothing with size, but we do see LG and MD. So MD changes the number of columns on medium or greater breakpoints. And if we go back to cols, we'll see that it sets the default number the component extends. So if we go here, then we're setting the cols to 9 and 3. But that's actually what we want for medium and greater. Our default then we'll set as 12. So that is them stacked on top of each other. So here we go. This is 12 right here, and then when we get large enough, it is what we had before. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. There is one more thing we need to do today, and that is turn this thing green and make this a clickable link. So that is fortunately going to be even easier than the last two things we did. I really did things out of order. So first, for the app bar, we're going to type color equals green. And all right, it's green. That was easy. And my first instinct was to put a 2 here, but unfortunately that doesn't work. We could make it a button, but well, I'll just show you. So if we do vButton and then we have our 2, then yeah, that's not great. And even if we have the text property, then, oh wait, it does work. All right, So that was even easier than I thought. Ah, yes. Once you click it, then it highlights, but what are you going to do? There are ways around it, but, I don't really hate it. It shows people that that's where they clicked. All right, so let's click around a little bit and see what we've done. So we've got multiple pages that are responsive now and looking a lot better. So I'm really happy with what we did today. Of course, there's always more to learn. I mean, there's more in the individual components that we used, and there are just a lot of components in Vuetify. But the good news is that once you start understanding a lot of the styles that are used, so using Flexbox, using the various colors, etc., then you'll be able to pick up on new components much more quickly because, they follow a pattern. And you'll be able to transfer over your knowledge from the old components while learning new ones. And that is it for today. I considered keeping going because, it's still light out, and that's unusual for when I stop. But this is a really good stopping point. All right, and then tomorrow I'm going to be working on client work, so no new video tomorrow. But the day after that, on Friday, I should be able to make a new video. I haven't decided exactly what I'm doing yet on that day, but I think I may tackle authentication. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. Submit to your favorite subreddit. Share with your family over the dinner table, all the things. I'll see you Friday.